Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we shall be casting our ever-critical eye over another 10th edition Imperial Guard datasheet. And this time, we are heading over to Warhammer Legends, because some of the coolest units in the Guard are in Legends, and it is a crying shame not to take a look at them. And today's legendary unit is Hell's Last, the limited edition command squad that Games Workshop released as part of commemorating the Cadian Blood series of books. And all I have to say is, Games Workshop, why are you mad? Why is this in Legends? Why is this not on your shelves right now? This is one of the coolest kits you've ever made for the Guard. It's the first named command squad that I can remember as ever having, and the rules for it are awesome. It breaks my heart that I can't take this to a 40k tournament. It's just really good. And with all of that said, let's not mess around any further. Let's fix bayonets, Cadian stands, and charge right into this.
Attention Guardsmen, the Commissariat has detected you have not yet liked this video. Do so immediately or else you will face the Emperor's wrath. And anyone who has not yet subscribed to the channel will be transferred to the penal battalions. That is all. Move out!
As is tradition, let us begin with a cheeky look at the stat line for this unit. Let's begin with Minka Lesk herself. She's got a movement value of 6 inches, which makes sense. She's human. She might be a special named character, but at the end of the day, she's going to move the same as all of the other bloody foot sloggers. We've then got Toughness 3, a 5-up save, and 3 wounds, Leadership 7, and OC 1. Very much a platoon commander's stat line. We've then got Lesk's veterans. Now, they've also got a movement of 6, toughness of 3, a 5-up save, Leadership 7, and OC of 1. But the big thing here is they've got 2 wounds. 2 wounds. That makes this a pretty chunky command squad. Between the 4 veterans and then Lesk herself, you've got a unit which has actually got 11 wounds. Not too bad at all. And what's really cool is the whole command squad has a 5+ invulnerable save. Normally when an invulnerable save is associated with like a command squad or something like that, it only applies to the officer. But it seems in this case, everyone in Hell's Last has that 5-up invulnerable. Don't get me wrong, that's not going to allow them to tank a charge from a unit of Khorne Berserkers. You're still only toughness 3 and, with 2 wounds. But what I like about this is it allows you to take a few big hits on the veterans before maybe you have to take them on the rest of the platoon, assuming that these guys are going to be leading like a big blob of Cadians. One thing that people sometimes don't realize is that in a command squad, this is Hell's Last and also all normal command squads as well, the only model in the command squad with the character keyword is the officer. Now, what this means is that you can actually lose all 4 veterans in this command squad first before you start pulling casualties from the main platoon, from the main blob of Cadian shock troops. Now, often you don't want to do that because the command squad's going to have some of the best gear. But on occasion, there is an advantage to taking out one of the command squad models first before taking out one of the squads from the main platoon. So the fact that everyone here has a 5+ invulnerable save means that if you've got a big hit coming in and you think, you know what, I need to tank this on the invulnerable save, you can take it on one of the veterans first, and if that passes, then that's fantastic, you've taken that shot. I think it's a very, very, very niche situation. I think not even 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, I think you're going to want to take casualties on the Cadian shock troops first, the main platoon. But it's good to know that you have that option. And it's also good to be aware of how command squads interact with wound allocation and the character rules. But that covers the stat line. Now let's go over to the unit composition and war gear. Of course, this being a named unit, there are no war gear options. They come with what they come with. But fortunately, each one of these guys actually has some half-decent equipment with them. Minka herself comes with a bolt pistol and a power weapon. You've also got one of the heroes who's got demolitions and a melter gun. And then we've got another one with a hotshot last pistol and a dirk. Love that little dirt, that's cool. And then we've got one with a bolt pistol and power weapon. That's going to be the Commissar guy. And then we've got another one with a power weapon and a regimental banner. That is a very respectable amount of power weapons in this one squad. I mean, if we take a look at the dirk itself, it's actually a little bit of like a pseudo power weapon. It's a little bit toned down, but it does have precision. Isn't such a big deal because the rest of the stat line is whatever, but it still has it. And then you've got 3 attacks hitting on 3s at AP -1, damage 1. So you get 3 AP -1 attacks here, and then each one of these power weapon bozos is bringing 4 attacks at strength 4 AP -2. So considering that we've got 1, 2, 3 power weapons, that is 12 power weapon attacks. That's pretty good. That's 12 power weapon attacks. And then you've got the 3 attacks from the dirk. So that's going to be 15 attacks from this squad with some form of AP. I don't know if that's going to allow it to actually... I don't think it's going to make it a brutal close combat unit. But it's a tool to have in the toolbox. If there's an enemy unit, maybe 1 or 2 intercessors left over... Maybe even a full squad of intercessors. I say full squad, I mean like a 5-man squad, because no one takes a 10-man squad. But maybe there's a squad of intercessors. You shoot them, but there's still a few left. And you're like, you know what? We need to get stuck in. Rather than like charging in and knowing that it's just going to be a waste of time, you could charge in and be like, hey, I've got a pretty decent amount of power weapon attacks. Also, I think it's important to note that considering that these guys can lead Cadian shock troops, it's actually especially important because unlike Death Corps of Krieg, who can get power weapons on their sergeants, Cadians can't. So this gives a Cadian blob some much needed power weapon goodness and allows you to fix bayonets with a little bit more confidence. As for the rest of the war gear, we have got a couple of bolt pistols in here. One on the Commissar dude, one on Lesk herself. Normal bolt pistols, hit on 3+, no dramas there. And then we've got that one hotshot last pistol on the other lady with the dirk. I think she's meant to be like a Drukian Fengard. I've not read the books myself, so lambast me, of course. But I've seen the model, and I think it's like a Drukian Fengard, but correct me if I'm wrong. But the little hotshot last pistol's fine, whatever. Bolt pistol's fine, whatever. The main star of the show on the range front is this absolute grizzled bastard right here, who has got a melter gun, which hits on a 3+ naturally. I like that. Because when this guy takes aim, he's hitting on a 2+. Bear in mind that you could add this to a big blob of Cadians, and that's 3 melter guns coming out of that squad. 2 hitting on 3s to take aim, 1 hitting on 2s. Not too shabby. You've also got demolitions, and it's this guy who's also got the demolition charge. Now, this is a 6-inch range blast one-shot weapon that has D6 shots, hitting on 4, so he doesn't quite hit as good with his demolitions as he did with his metal gun. Fair enough. Still hitting on 3s with take aim. At strength 9, AP -2, damage 2. Now, what I think is very important to understand here is that this is a ranged weapon, and this is a ranged weapon, and neither of these are pistols. So, your demolition bozo can shoot his melter gun and throw his demolition charge at the same time, which actually does make this guy do quite a lot of damage output. On average, against, let's say you've got like a squad, again, a squad of incest or something, let's say you're getting +1 shot from blast. On average, you're getting 4 to 5 shots at strength 9, AP -2, damage 2 from this guy, and then you're also getting the melter gun on top of that. That's a lot of damage too from one bloke. And sure, this is only a one-shot weapon, but still, I really like it. So Hell's Last are reasonably durable, and they've got a nice amount of damage output, albeit a lot of it is in melee. But, you know, that demo guy, he's doing all right. He's pulling his weight. But as we all know, when it comes to command squads, it's not necessarily about what they can do. It's often about how they can be a force multiplier, how they can support the troops around them. And this typically comes from their abilities. First ability we have is Voice of Command. Lesk is an officer and she can do orders. In fact, she can do 2 orders, which is really, really cool. I like that. However, it is worth pointing out that these 2 orders, whilst awesome, are slightly limited because there is no Voxcaster in Hell's Last. So that means she can only do her orders in a 6-inch bubble. And because they are a command squad, even though Cadian shock troops can have 2 leaders join them, you can only ever have one of those leaders be a command squad. So I suspect that while she can do 2 orders, often you are going to find that she only ends up doing 1 to the unit that she's leading. But if you had another unit nearby that she could support, maybe you have a couple of sentinels following these guys around, providing a bit of las cannon support or something, you could definitely play into it. Maybe you just take advantage of the fact that you could use her in a combined arms detachment, and you could use the stratagem that lets every officer order every unit. So you've got infantry officers that can order vehicles and infantry, and same with vehicle officers. Maybe you have like a Lehman Russ that follows the squad around. There's some way you could leverage it, but it's a little awkward, and it's definitely not as easy as just having a Master Vox in there. But hey, I'm not going to look at gift horse in the mouth. 2 orders is nice. But where things get really spicy, where things get really spicy, and where things would make this, frankly, an S-tier unit if it was allowed in competitive play, is Heroic Example. While this unit's Minka Lesk model is on the battlefield, each time model in this unit makes an attack, you can just re-roll the fucking hit roll. It actually says fucking in there. I like to think it does anyway. You can just re-roll the hit roll. Oh. Wow. Because this wouldn't just apply to Hell's Last. It would apply to those Cadians that are being led as well. And when you think that you could have Lesk in here, and then you could also have like a Cadian Castellan in here as well, who gives the squad sustained hits, it would be kind of expensive, and you still wouldn't have a Voxcaster, but you could have a squad that has full rerolls to hit with sustained hits. Nice. Truth be told, I'm not sure I would do that with the Castellan. It looks good on paper, but you are very much just limiting the... you're very limited in where the orders can go, because you'd have 4 orders that would be just in such a tight space. But even... I'd probably try it out and see how it did. But even without the Castellan, this is a really, really good ability. Just gives Cadian shock troops a massive damage boost. And thinking about this inside a combined arms detachment, that's a lot of lethal hits you could get against enemy infantry. A lot of lethal hits. The last ability we have here is nice, but it's not quite as spicy as Heroic Example. Lesk's Heroes. Add 1 to the leadership characteristic of models in this unit, so you'd go to leadership 6, and you can reroll battle shock and leadership tests taken for this unit. That's really nice because you don't want to be taking battle shock tests and losing your orders and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like you get a commissar. Obviously, there's a commissar model here, but it's kind of like you get a commissar's main benefits included in the command squad, and you don't even need to execute someone to be able to re-roll battle shock tests and stuff. In fact, if you had duty and honor, you'd be on leadership 5 plus re-rollable, which is very, very nice. Duty and honor, of course, being the order. And one last cheeky war gear ability, arguably the most important one from a rule of cool perspective, you do have the flag. Flag's the best bit. Add 1 to the objective control characteristics of models in the bearers unit. Nice, simple, does what all regimental banners do, but it's not super powerful, but you know when it comes up, it's nice, and at the end of the day, it's the flag! Gotta love the flag. So that covers all of the stat lines, weapons, war gear, abilities, and all that good stuff, but we do need to talk about the points cost. Hell's Last is an 80-point unit. My first instinct is that that's a little low, but after considering it for a bit longer, I think that's actually in a fairly reasonable spot. Because think about it. At the end of the day, any damage that this unit really does is in melee. Having like one melter gun and a demolition charge is nice, but the demo charge is so short range. The melter gun is also particularly short range. It's really not doing almost any damage output on its own until it gets very close. And when it gets that close, well, it's probably not going to survive to the next turn because these are just guardsmen at the end of the day, right? So damage output is like a one and done, and even then it's pretty limited. So then we get to the fact that, okay, it's a command squad, so it can do 2 orders. But as we pointed out, those 2 orders are great, but they are actually quite limited without access to the Master Vox. So often you'll probably find one of those orders going to waste, which means that really what this datasheet is in practical terms, not in theory hammer or math hammer terms, but in actual tabletop practical terms, what this unit is bringing to the table is Heroic Example and Lesk's Heroes. And Heroic Example is very, very good. It is probably worth the 15 additional points that you would pay for this unit. Lesk's Heroes, on the other hand, whilst being nice to have, well, put it this way. No one's taking commissars in their armies for leadership purposes. The only time you ever see anyone taking a commissar in their army is to stick it in reserve to have a 30-point secondary game unit. Taking all of that into account, I think that Lesk's Heroes is, in practical terms, worth around 80 points. I think that makes Hell's Last plus the platoon that they'd be leading a total of 200 points. That's 10% of your army on this single blob squad, and that does feel about right in the grand scheme of things. So in summary, Hell's Last is a really cool unit. The models are fantastic. The rules are awesome. They actually seem really, really well thought out and in a crazy kind of way, somewhat balanced, taking into account that points cost. And now I'm really sad I can't use them in a tournament. Games Workshop, you need to bring this unit back on frontline production, and you need to bring this unit into Warhammer proper. But of course, all of that is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Do you think that Hell's Last is a good unit? Would you take it in your army? And are there any other Legends units that you want me to take a look at and do a cheeky review of? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Redfield, 32, Jurgens, Miasma, Try Again, Bragg, RJ, Scorpion, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Nicholas Walsh, John Stubbs, Guardian, Varney, Sword, Fish Trombone, Picklock the Forged. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.